I got pregnant with my second child at the same time. She didn't fire me.
That's a whole other
It's a whole different
cultural
thing.
thing because at that time you
Sure.
could be terminated.
Yep.
And also on the loan side, like banks would ask, are you going to have a baby? And they would like not look at the income.
In business and in life, I want people to know that I care.
Wow. I feel
It
that.
made me tear up. So
I feel that.
it's just, they're just not a number.
So I pray that your partners and your clients understand how lucky they are to have you.
You were made to be great.
Don't settle for less.
You were made to be great.
Don't settle for less.
You were made to be great.
Don't settle for less.
You were made to be great.
Welcome to another episode of the Made to Be Great podcast. I am excited today because I have with me Laura Mead, who has been a longtime friend and colleague now for a little over 9 years. Well, longer than that, but at
Longer than
Fairway,
that. Yeah.
9 years. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's fun.
Honor to have you here. So let's kick it off and go back to the beginning of how you got in the business. Say, like, how did that go? Did you grow up around mortgage? Did you not? Tell us a little bit about your story, because like high school guidance counselors aren't handing out cards for this business usually.
No,
So
it's a running joke, right, in the
Yeah.
mortgage business. No one ever graduates from high school or college and says, okay, my ambition is to be a mortgage loan advisor.
right.
I did grow up in real estate, similar, to your story.
Yes.
And my mother was a real estate broker in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where I grew up. She had her own office. She was a rock star, one of the first female real estate brokers, and in the business. She was the only one for many years.
And what year was that for the listeners who?
So this would be in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. And
It's crazy to think for me, because right now, growing up, when I did in this market, that I could think of most of the top real estate brokers are female.
Yes.
So it's quite a bit different than when.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, women couldn't even buy a home with a mortgage in their name until 1970 something. I think it might have been like 72 or 73.
Mm.
And so she really was a glass ceiling breaker,
Wow.
for sure. And my dad was a builder and a land developer. So real estate was in the family, and that was in the blood. Mortgages were not, but we talked about finance. My dad taught me how to use a financial calculator when I was in college. And yeah. And he said, this is going to be important. Then they made me take my real estate exam the summer between my junior and senior year of college so that I could be ready, because their assumption was I was going to go sell real estate for the family. This is pre-iPhone. This is pre-GPS. I like to joke, I can't find my way out of a brown paper bag. I have the worst sense of direction. If I follow my instincts and I turn right, I should have turned left.
So as a real estate agent back then, you had to navigate. There was no.
No, there was none of that. You had to learn how to read a map and get around. So I tried, because I really liked the business. It was fun watching my parents, and that was our dinner table conversation. What happened was that I, of course, was working with first-time home buyers, because I was a brand new young married person myself. And so it was the first-time home buyer space. And we all needed to learn how to budget and be ready, for home ownership. So I would gather together all their documents. I'd help them with their budget. I'd use my little financial calculator that my dad made me, and we'd talk about payments and things like that. And then I'd go with them to the local bank. And I went to a female loan officer that my mom loved and respected. And they would be ready, for their loan application and their loan approval, because I'd done all that work. So fast forward, when my husband was transferred to Central Florida, the same loan officer that I used to bring my clients to in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was given a branch company. They had tasked her with growing the branch, and they said, you can hire 5 to 6 brand new loan officers You can design your own training program. And she knew that I had been living in Central Florida for about a year. And she called me and said, I know you probably are thinking about getting your real estate license because that's what your family does, but I think you would really, really be good in mortgages. And I'd like to talk to you about that.
Hmm.
So she hired me and put me in her little training program. And,
So brand new to the mortgage space per se,
yeah,
gave you a shot. So this is like a lot of groundbreaking things happening together, right?
yeah,
So your mom is a real estate broker, female at the time, not common. This woman who got you in to the mortgage business, also, I'm assuming at that time, still not super common
yeah. No,
for her to be running the show.
not coming to be a branch manager. Now banks were hiring more women, at that point in time. But for her to relocate from Louisiana to Florida with with a startup branch
It's
and
big
be,
time.
yeah,
Yeah. I think a lot of our listeners might be shocked to know that like this is a whole different world
oh,
30 some years ago,
yeah.
like, I mean, truly, I think.
It's completely different. I was the only female loan officer in the entire group,
Hmm.
and the men were not thrilled that I was there.
Very interesting. So how did you navigate that?
Well, Sheila, that was my manager. She said, "Look, um, it's going to be rough, but you've been around your dad's building and construction business. It's going to be the same kind of thing. There's going to be some language. They like to drink. They probably are not going to be super respectful, but."
Hmm.
She
Kind of
said,
wild expectations to set, but
yeah,
it's what it is, right?
and she, I think this is a semi-direct quote, which was very, very flattering. She said, I think you're going to bring some class to this business and
Hmm.
that you will do really well. So,
I think she was right.
apparently she was right because 30 years later, fast forward,
Yeah,
I'm still doing it. Yeah.
very cool. Okay, so you're in Central Florida. You start doing mortgages with Sheila.
Mhm.
Then what's next?
It was very interesting. um, the company that we worked for, this is a lot of fun too. So then I got pregnant with my second child at the same time. She didn't fire me. She said, "Okay, you're just gonna have to, continue to get dressed and show up for work." And
That's a whole other
yeah,
like
it's a whole different
cultural
thing.
thing, like because at that time, I've been told I
You
wasn't
could be
there.
terminated
You
for
could be terminated,
yeah,
and also on the loan side, like um, banks would ask,
yeah,
"Are you going to have a baby?" And they would like not look at the income
yes.
then, right?
They would just assume that you were gonna quit
Yeah.
working and be a stay-at-home mom. So the training program's great. A sales manager was a little tough, but I showed some spunk, and he liked it,
Mm,
and he turned out to be just really a good lifelong advisor as well.
very cool.
I got out there and I hustled, and I actually had one woman real estate agent ask me how old I was. She said, "Are you sure you're old enough to be doing this?" I said, "Well, I'm
Wow.
old enough to have a baby and another one on the way, so I would think yes." I am. And before I knew it, I had a bunch of loan applications, and I was, learning and taking the business. And then that bank decided they did not want to be in retail loan origination, and they
Hmm.
gave us a 4-week notice and closed the office down.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a little
Did you see
surprising.
that coming at the time or
No,
no?
I did not, and neither did Sheila. She was hustling, trying to find, another spot and,
Hmm.
to try to take as many people as she could. And I'm really very proud to say that I was actually the first person to find another placement because one of the guys that
Hmm.
I had gone through training with had been given a branch manager position at another mortgage company. He called me and he said, my regional VP thinks I'm nuts because I want to hire the pregnant woman loan officer. Um, but I told him, "You're, really good and you've got, great potential."
Hmm.
And, he said, "The only thing is I can't give you like maternity leave. You're not going to be able to, you're not gonna be paid while you're off. So, you have to be prepared
Hmm.
to hustle." So I went over there, brought my loan applications with me. Worked until I had to cancel 3 appointments the day I went into labor. Um,
So we're talking about working up until literal
literally,
labor.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, literally, had to do that, and then, went back to work 3 weeks after I delivered, and they let me bring the baby in, to the office, and then I
Also probably
very
not common at
unusual,
the
yeah.
time, right?
Yeah, he was a really, really nice guy, and, many little blessings along the way, honestly. I
Hmm.
feel like I've always had kind of an angel riding on my shoulder saying, "Okay, you just keep doing it, and, I'll keep looking after you."
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's a very great perspective and blessing to have.
yeah,
Um, Earlier there, you breezed by something that I just want to touch on
okay,
is you said my husband.
mhm,
Uh, so like, do you want to walk us back to, I started in work, but like, when did you guys meet? How has he
uh,
been supportive of your career? Do you want
uh,
to fill us in a little bit about that stage and that part of your life?
sure. Yeah, he's my biggest cheerleader, and we basically grown up together. So we
Mm.
went to not we went to college together. We met in high school. I was at high school in Baton Rouge, and he was in high school in a little town called Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, which is where my dad grew up. And
Hmm.
so when my grandfather died, we went back over to the Mississippi Gulf Coast and to bury my grandfather. And my dad reconnected with all of his high school and college friends, and wound up buying a little tiny place um, that we called it. His name was Jack. We called it Jack's Attractive Shack. It was really small. It was like 2 bedrooms and 2 baths, but it was a little
Hmm.
spot where we could go over on the weekends, and that's where I met my husband. We went to college together, and we got married right after college, so we've been together
Wow.
a long time. Yeah.
Okay. Where'd you go to college?
Ole Miss, University of
Okay.
Mississippi. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And go Rebels.
All right. A little shout out.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And David is very, very supportive. You know, he he's when he sees me working, and I do primarily work from a home office, he's like, you grind. You really
Mm.
have the work ethic, and so he's my biggest supporter.
Makes it a lot easier when
It
you have.
surely does. Yeah. Because it's not helping families with the biggest thing that they buy in finance is it's not an easy, business. You know that. And
Can be emotional.
it can be. It's highly personal,
Yeah.
and extremely important.
Hmm.
And people have to give us a lot of trust. So,
That they do. It's kind of like going to the doctor. I mean, people have to show their W-2s, their bank statements, their pay
yeah,
stubs, their credit report. I mean, we're really
a
kind of
lot.
getting into their life in a personal way and helping them with probably one of, if not the biggest financial decision that most people ever have. So it's,
Yeah, it's a lot of trust.
yeah.
And it's highly personal, especially if it's a primary residence, whether it's the first time or a move up. It's where you're going to live. It's where you're going to raise your family. It's where you're going to make your memories.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of money that people are borrowing,
Increasingly so.
increasingly so. And so, yeah, um, so we do have to work hard to convey how much we care
Mm.
and that we're there for them.
Yeah. It's a complex job, like, there's a lot of skill necessary, like you mentioned earlier, like budgeting, looking at credit, it's very technical.
Hmm.
Yet at the same time, I feel like the people who do it the best also have that human side where they can connect with the person and understand like what they're going through
Yes.
mentally, emotionally, family stuff. Um, to me, that those are some of the best.
Yeah, I mean, and those are some of the great questions that I like to ask people.
Mm,
So tell me what your goals are for this, right? So is it you want to be in a great school district? Is it you need a bigger home because you've got another baby on the way? Had a conversation with a past client. His mother will be moving in with them, so they need a bigger
mm,
place with with a nice mother-in-law suite. and the wife wants acreage. So they're so excited. They just got a contract on that perfect house. And I know the backstory
Yeah, that's cool.
for all of
It's
that.
neat to be a part of that, right? Like,
It really is.
because you're doing life milestones with people, whether it's a first time, move up, move down, if kids are moving out or parents are moving in, there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons why people could want to make a move. And, we're part of that
Yeah.
story, which is pretty neat.
And I really I think that that's one of the areas that that I feel like I excel in is I really want to get to know them. So when somebody calls me 5 years from now and they'll say, "I'm not sure if you remember me," well, I actually do
Mm,
because we got to know each other, for the story.
yes.
And I do remember them, and it's a lot of fun when they come back or when they send their child because their child is now grown up and and wants to
That's cool.
become a
That's a
homeowner.
high
And that's happening.
compliment.
Yes.
Right?
Well, after 30 years, this is definitely happening, right?
Mhm. But I mean, someone referring their
Their child,
child
yes.
is, I mean,
Their child or their parent, or their brother, a family member. That's a huge and high honor.
yeah, yeah. So someone listening to this that might not be familiar with the mortgage business, is our business, would you say, um, pretty even? Like it's always awesome? Like we really have not much adversity? How would you describe
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh, you're setting me up, right? So, well, and you and I both been through that. So, I've been through, a couple of small dips, highs and lows. And during the housing crash, that was a big one. And as you and I have,
2008
yeah,
through
2000,
11, 12,
yeah,
whenever people.
exactly, yeah. And the company that I work for was a family-owned company, and they made a decision to close it and go into another financial services type business. And I frankly I was tired. It had been a very stressful.
From the mortgage business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot of stress, and most of the phone calls and the consultations were trying to help people figure out how they could short sell their house or modify their mortgage, or they flat out lost it, and so it was a very stressful, time.
A lot of emotional lows,
Yes,
having conversations with people who are upset, who are going back economically and leaning on us to try to help.
yeah,
That was taxing, not only for the people going through it, but for anyone connected to trying to help
connect and trying to be, a good and kind
human
uh,
being to them.
human being and a
Yeah.
resource,
Yeah.
yeah, to them. Um, and so my family member, uh, asked me if I would go on ahead and join, him in the financial services business. And so I let my mortgage business go. There are times when I have significant, and sincere regrets of stepping out of that space for a few years. And then there are times when, I am grateful for the experience that I did get in a different type of financial services. It makes me more aware when I'm helping families now, with their mortgage, because
Mhm.
I know what their financial investments are, and that side of things. So, um,
So on the mortgage side, we deal with a lot of liability debt management,
mhm,
right? Versus like financial services, you're working on the other
the,
side, like
the oth-
assets,
the other side of the balance
retirement
sheet,
income planning,
in
things like
yeah,
that.
investment income, retirement planning, and those types of things.
So now you've got experience advising both on the asset side and the liability side, which makes, you're saying it makes you a little more well-rounded,
It
you feel.
does. I feel like I'm more well-rounded. I still have a great budget workbook for those first-time, home buyers that need it,
Mm,
or people that have maybe gotten into too much debt and they're trying to figure out how to get out of it. And I do share with people, hey, I part of my background is I was in, financial planning for almost 7 years. So if you need to put your financial planner in touch with me,
mm.
I can speak the language. I don't do that anymore, but we can have a nice direct conversation, and make sure that we're working within whatever those goals are that you have with your financial planner, so that this purchase and this new financing doesn't derail, any of those other goals that you have. And that seems to give people, some comfort. So, it's an interesting thing. And um, and I also recognize that whatever direction, we go in life, yes, there's a certain amount of choice that we have on that. But I am a Christian, and I believe that God directs, all of my ultimate choices. So
Yeah.
he must have wanted me to be in that financial planning to pick up that
Yeah.
knowledge.
Sometimes we don't always understand his plan at the time,
Yeah.
or maybe ever
Or
here
ever,
on earth,
or
but
it could
we
take many
just
years.
have to go with it, right?
Correct. Yes.
A few things I want to touch on in there. To me, I was intrigued that when I mentioned adversity, that the first thought you had was that 2008
Mhm.
Versus the initial discrimination or treatment that you may have experienced being a female in the business.
Yeah. I never viewed that as adversity. I really didn't. I knew as a young woman in the 80s, which is when basically I got into this, that I would have to carve my own path, and I'd have to be a little bit tougher. And I think I learned that by working in my dad's construction office in high school and college.
So in that
Yes,
environment, you were already a minority of
correct. Yeah,
woman around a bunch of men. So you're saying you kind of already knew what you were getting into or what to expect. So it wasn't a surprise. Whereas
yeah.
2008 was kind of like more of a surprise.
2008, yeah, 2009. That was a really shocking
Hmm.
and quick development. And but it's one of those things that I hate to say it. I'm kind of glad that I went through it, because now when people say to me, "Do you think the housing market's going to crash?" Well, I've already seen a crash, and what is going on right now is nowhere near that. So
Yeah.
it gives some really good perspective. But yes, I mean, I didn't, and really think I was very blessed. I was very fortunate. I mean, I was hired by a woman who had already pushed through all of that early stuff.
Hmm.
And she prepared me. She said, "It won't be easy. You're going to be the only woman, in the room. When you go to these, association meetings, you and I might be the only women in the room, and it'll be a tough crowd." But
Hmm.
she knew also that I had grown up in my dad's, construction business. So, I mean, honestly, when you're 16 years old and your first one of your first jobs is to, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and call subcontractors who are hungover and tell them they have to show up for work. And
Probably had some
you get
interesting conversations.
few golf words,
Yeah.
were
Yeah, I could
were
imagine.
lobbed in my dad, said, basically get over it,
Wow.
and and just keep calling. Here's the list, and you keep calling. Then a couple of years later, when his assistant had to be out, I'm in charge of handing out paychecks. He said, so if somebody shows up for a check and they're not on the list, it's because they didn't do the work.
Hmm.
That's always fun. Now you're face to face with people that are irritated because they want their check on
Great
Friday.
lesson, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he did it on purpose, but on your dad's end, like, what a connection between doing the work and getting paid.
Yeah. It was a direct
a young age.
connection. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, well, no check. Well, they didn't show up. So
Yeah. You're not on the
therefore,
list. You didn't do the work.
Yeah.
And if you don't shout at me. You can.
Because I say that because these days I feel like many of us have lost that connection between,
Yeah.
there's just like an expectation of, without
Without doing the work.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's probably a really deep conversation for another day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Very interesting. Okay. All right. So you're in 2008
Mhm.
cycle. You're going to financial services. And then now we're going forward 7 years. And what's the next? How do you kind of
Shift
wind
over.
that down, and
Yeah.
and what brought you back in to the mortgage space, and how did that
Yeah.
go?
It's really interesting. So, and no disrespect intended to any financial planners that are watching. I felt like the pace of it was very, very slow. The life cycle, the client cultivation cycle, um, it is just it's a different pace,
Yeah.
entirely. And maybe I'm a little crazy, but when someone throws a problem at me, and mortgage transactions are full of those,
I've heard
I
that.
like to solve problems, and overcome obstacles. And many times that's what we're doing. We're trying to figure out how to make it work and overcome, obstacles. So, like, to bring David back in, my husband, into the
Mm.
conversation, I said, we're talking one night, and I said, I'm just really not enjoying this. Um, if I had gotten into it maybe younger,
This meaning like the
the
financial
financial,
planning piece.
planning piece. I said the cycle to really achieve, good and measurable success is very, very long. And the pace of this, industry is really slow, for me. And he said, and I know you've heard me say this before, he said, "Well, are you Facebook friends with Josh?" And I said,
Mhm.
"I don't know if I am." And he said, "Well, I've been following him, and he actually looks like he is having fun and enjoying the mortgage business." And I said, "Huh,
Which,
really?"
for those not familiar, that was kind of like an outlier type of situation at the
Yeah.
time.
So I checked, and and I don't recall if I sent a friend request or if we already were one, but I started following, and I Facebook stalked you,
Mm.
and your videos were fun, and you had really good energy, and it seemed like you were enjoying the mortgage business. And, again, to harken back to 2008, 2009, when that's the only memory that you have, it's like, this was not enjoyable. This was highly
Especially
stressful.
I mean, starting a career, doing well, and then having that be like the last experience
Yes.
in that field kind of
That was
sears into your
it was
mind. Like,
embedded in my
yeah,
my brain, right? So that's I met with you. We talked about, the state of the industry, the changes that had occurred, the
mm,
steps that I would have to take, to get licensed, and back into the mortgage lending world. And, as they say, the rest is history, because I just celebrated my 9-year anniversary
yeah.
with Fairway and with you.
Very thankful for your trust in those 9 years. Also, for anyone listening now or later, why that's meaningful to me, even more so than maybe obvious, is that um, the last several years, there's been a lot of movement in our industry. A lot of people took what you could call the easy way out and went somewhere to get a big guarantee. Um, Again, no shade to anyone who did that because they had to or whatever, but it's been trying times. Again, I mean, not the same way, I don't think, as 2008, but in a different way.
Mm,
And so I don't know what the data is, but it feels like every 2 to 4 years, people change companies, or at least a fair amount of people seem to change companies. And so, anyways, 9 years is a long tenure in the mortgage space
yeah.
in general. So I'm grateful for that as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a great company with a really good culture, top down,
Yes.
and um, it fits my personality. You fit my personality.
Mm,
I think that the support that we get, and the really the happy environment. So there are happy people working at Fairway.
yeah,
Underwriters are happy, operations support people are happy.
and
Everyone,
helpful.
and helpful, and on the same mission to give a really great experience to the customer, the borrower, as well
Mm,
as to all the employees. So it's very unusual in my experience. It's just very unusual to have that whole
yes.
cultural piece going.
Yeah, it is. I mean, in a lot of industries, it may be this way, but I know the mortgage business really well. And generally, at most places, I don't know if you have experienced this, but the dynamic between sales, what we do,
Hmm.
and operations, which would be everything else, fulfillment,
Yes.
processing, underwriting, closing, post closing, servicing, which handles the monthly payments. There's generally kind of like a tension and a lack of mutual respect for those two worlds. And that's been initially like was very refreshing when I came here and has amazed me that it continues to be that way. And it makes it so that it reduces stress because you
Yes.
don't have to worry like, are they going to help? You know they're going to help.
No,
As like,
yeah, I know they are. And to put it in perspective for anyone that's new in the business or considering getting into the business, most organizations that I'm familiar with, you could not pick up the phone and call an underwriter and say, "I'd like to talk, through this loan file
yeah,
and figure out, what we're going to do so that we can get to yes."
right.
And in fact, one company, we will not name it, that you and I both worked for, we were forbidden from speaking with the underwriter. Can hardly talk to the processor, about
Yes,
the loan file, which makes it incredibly difficult to get it done. And a lot of stress residing, with the loan officer who has to then go back to the customer and convey what's going on. Where
right.
at Fairway,
And then you're hoping,
yes,
you're hoping that you guess it right because they won't talk to you,
right, because you can't have a conversation.
which is stressful because
Yes,
you care and you want to tell the person the truth
yes.
and the transparent update of what's going on. But if you can't talk to
Can't
them,
talk to them is kind of difficult to get there.
yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, my experience at Fairway has been, I mean, right down to senior vice president level underwriting. Having conversations about how to get things done, or even just running, scenarios by. Like I've had agents send me photographs of properties, or clients, borrowers send me can I do this, or am I going to have to fix this item that, on the property? And I email those, to a senior underwriter. I have, I mean, yeah, we had one call FHA and say, this is what we have, can we underwrite this property, or are we going to have to, get something corrected to get that done?
Mm.
That's just one small example, which
which is huge,
is
right?
huge.
Because then you're telling everyone in the transaction before it even becomes a transaction exactly what the playbook's going to be.
Right.
Which how calming is that to know? Like you're not. Whereas other places we've been,
Yeah, you would
you're
have
guessing. You're trying to read through guidelines. You're hoping that you
Yeah.
tell them the right thing to do, and then if you don't get it completely right, then you have to go back and ask again. And then people, are they happy to hear from you again?
No, they're never happy
No.
because they thought they had already, had that asked and answered, right?
Yeah,
So,
which is logical and reasonable, right?
reasonable.
Like you're the expert, you should know. And a lot of times it's hard to know what goes on behind the scenes.
Exactly. And it's really incredibly reassuring when someone at the very senior level who is in charge of the yes or the no.
Yes. The most beautiful thing about that is that's who it's going to roll up to if
Yes.
there's a question, right? Is that where you're going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So you're getting it from the boss,
from the very,
like,
very top.
right up front.
Right.
Yeah.
Just very, very, it's incredibly reassuring. And there's so many examples. I mean, I could go go on.
That could be a whole episode.
It could be a whole episode of, yes, all these different scenarios, and here's how it was taken care of properly
Mm-hmm.
with Fairway underwriting.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It helps keep me
I'm
calm.
grateful.
I find myself, especially if I think back to places I was before Fairway, certain situations like that would come up and I could just feel my anxiety like building because I know that I'm going to have to make an educated guess. Even though I may usually get it right, it's not always.
Not always.
And the piece of being able to call the person who's actually going to make the decision and get the decision before you. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
100%. And, there are so many other areas of operations, like our closing department is amazing.
Mm.
And, just completely amazing in their speed to solve problems and get things done. And I have heard from, other agents. And of course, we've experienced it at other companies where it, if you have a problem at the closing table,
Are
you just
people
have to
stressed at the
reschedule
closing
everything.
table?
And yeah,
Are they?
yeah.
Do they want to wait
Yeah.
hours
You
or
wanna wait
days for a
hours,
solution?
or you wanna just, leave and come back in 2 days or something, where we have this speed to respond where things are taken care of, I mean, within minutes. It's pretty crazy.
I've never seen anything like that out of all the places I've worked. Um, Never seen anything like that. And I think it's set from the top with our CEO, Steve Jacobson.
Yes.
I learned at some point in my tenure here that he is on, I don't know the official to this, but I think he's on nearly every distribution group, particularly the 911 emergency groups
Yes.
that we have. So there's like a closing 911, which would handle
Mhm.
that situation. And people will just, I mean, it's like nearly an instant response.
It
And
really is. It's
it's
crazy.
even evenings, holidays. I mean, there's always someone there,
Yeah, my
which
my
is
very first,
incredible.
my very first Jake story for Steve.
Yeah.
I was trying to disclose one of my first loans. Had a senior citizen borrower who was living in an extended stay hotel, had to go to the public library to access the internet to sign his disclosures. I mean, he wasn't sure if he'd done it. I wasn't sure because I was, brand new to Fairway, if he had done it correctly. We're talking on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I received an email response back when I was asking, for help. And it was Jake.
Yeah. Crazy. I mean,
Crazy.
you don't
He's like,
see
"Don't
that.
worry, it's Sunday. The team will be, logged on in a couple of hours, and and someone will help you."
Yeah.
So
Not happening other places. I
no.
mean,
And by the way, we closed to that senior citizen VA borrower in 8 business days. It was a turn down from another company, and he was so grateful.
those are sweet
Yes,
victories,
that
right?
felt particularly good to.
Especially a veteran to be able to help
Yes.
somebody
Yeah.
that deserves the
Yes.
help.
Who deserves the help and is, stressing out. And I have lived in an extended motel waiting for him to close. So I
Not probably anyone's preference.
felt his
right?
pain.
Yeah.
And I told
Totally.
him that. I said, I've done this. It is not fun. We're going to help you get closed as fast as we can so that you can get out of living in a hotel and go move into your own space again.
Your own space is a beautiful thing.
And this is why
That's
we do
what
what we do.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, that kind of defines it right there.
That it does. Something that I realized that we missed talking about that's part of both of our stories is coaching.
Ah, yes.
So, do you want to share how, what your thoughts are on coaching, what your experiences have been, how it may or may not have helped you?
Oh, yeah. Um, I was introduced to coaching probably around my 8th or 9th year in the business. Back then, if you wanted to get coached, it was on the phone, or you had to fly out to wherever your coach was to
Mm.
do a workshop kind of thing. But I've never forgotten, the week my first week of coaching, and how helpful it was to my mindset. So fast forward to Fairway, and we have this really incredible coaching and giving group called Ignite, Fairway Ignite Coaching. And I've had a couple of really, really good coaches. I think that for me, where coaching really helps is it's accountability. So yes, I'm a grown up and I've been doing this a long time and I know what I should do, but I think everyone has those times where they just want to procrastinate and not do what they need to do, or their confidence gets down and they need a boost in confidence, and that's where coaching really helps me. So it's I deliberately signed up with someone who will hold me accountable, and and she has a fun way of starting the coaching session. Give
Mm.
me a lesson and a win from the last week.
Okay.
So that's growth and that's mindset.
Mm. A lesson would be something that maybe didn't go the way you wanted it to, and something you learned from that experience,
It
right?
could be the same. It can be the same experience. And she'll say, look, if it's not business, it can be personal because personal and business are deeply intertwined, right? So
Amen to
you
that.
can't separate that. You might think you can, but you really can't. So
I
whatever's
agree.
going on in your personal life and your headspace, definitely impacts your business.
Yeah,
So she likes to know where we're learning and growing, and then where we feel like we're winning,
I like that.
and that keeps it keeps the headspace, which is the most important thing I think that any of us in any business, especially if you are in sales or, where if on the front line, right?
Yeah,
You have to keep whatever's going on in your head um, crystal clear. You have to know where you're going and how you're going to get there and be positive, and be able to envision that.
yeah, yeah. Do you, speaking of positivity, uh, do you have any thoughts on, do you have a practice where you deliberately focus on things, or like some people would say affirmations, or are there tools you use to systematically make sure that's part of your day or your week?
My dad, who's no longer with us, but he talked to me about gratitude. He said you have to start your day in gratitude.
Mm,
And I was walking every day, trying to get some exercise and and some fresh air. And he said, um, when you're walking, start off with the basic physical things that you're grateful for.
mm,
And I said, I bet by the time you finish your couple of miles walk, you will be at least at 100 gratitudes. And so whether
mm.
I'm walking or I wake up and I'm doing my meditation, I start my day with what I'm grateful for. And of course, again, I'm a Christian, so I'm doing this as a meditation slash prayer,
Yeah,
right?
it's good.
So and my dad was right. He said you have to start with your health. Be grateful that you have two legs
And you're walking
and
and you're
2 feet
out,
to
and
walk with.
yeah,
Be grateful that your lungs are functioning and you can breathe so that you can walk and move. Be grateful that you have eyes to see with. Start there
mm.
and then move on to, all of the other multiple things. You will find it impossible to be in a negative mind space if you start there.
Would you say that a person could also wake up and pretty easily think of things they could be mad or disappointed or angry about?
Sure. Yeah.
And would you say that's the default for people?
I I don't know. I really don't know. I am a glass half full kind of a person. And
How long have you practiced that, the
oh,
gratitude?
over 20 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know if you would agree with this, but I think that what we habitually do becomes part of our nature. And so, like, because you've done that for 20 years, I think what I've experienced is whatever I'm looking for, I'll probably find it.
Mm,
So,
100%. So
starting your
yeah.
day with gratitude, I bet it makes it easier throughout the day to find more things to be grateful for.
Undoubtedly, because I choose joy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that, because it's a choice. Well, it's always a choice, right?
Yes. And I think maybe it is easier, to go into the negative. Again, I really don't know because I've been doing the gratitude morning for probably 25 years longer. And
Hmm.
when that started, I'll tell you when it started. It was in 2008, 2009,
Mm. That's when you
and that's when I
started
started.
doing the
Yeah,
gratitude.
yeah,
And what
that's when I
caused you
started.
to do that at that
It
time?
was. There was just a lot going on. I mean, our business was imploding, the real estate, value and the mortgage market was terrible. There was, there was this. You recall a website where you could go to and you could log in and see which mortgage lenders had closed up the
The
night before.
implodometer or whatever they called it.
Implodometer or so,
Yeah.
implode.com,
Yeah.
and
Wild time to be in
yeah.
the
And
business.
sadly, at the same time, my husband's business, had gone under, and so we were in a lot of stress, lots
I would say so.
of stress.
Yeah.
And that's what my dad told me. He said, "You have to choose your happiness. You have to focus on what you are grateful for, and you have to seek it out. You
Mm.
have to be intentional about that because you can't control all of these other things. But if you can control your attitude and how you perceive things, and you're again choosing joy, you're choosing gratitude," he said, "it will absolutely come. Things will change, and it will, and it will manifest."
Yeah.
And it did. Took a while.
I love that. I love that you started that during a time where a lot of people would that'd be the last thing on their mind to start a practice of being grateful when they're in a situation that arguably a lot of people might say, well, she has every right to be angry or bitter or sad and I feel like that probably changed the trajectory of your career and your life for the better, I would guess.
I feel like it definitely did. Changed my marriage. It
Mm,
kept us on a good path. Um, and not delving into negativity, together, right?
yeah, another really critical piece to your earlier point, because if your relationships are stressed, then your life is going to be stressed, your career is going to be stressed. And so,
Yes.
right.
Everything can go downhill,
Yeah,
and it is easy to fall into that. So my dad was a very wise man, and I'm
indeed he
still grateful
was.
for that.
Yeah, I love that. Um, what would you say to someone today in the mortgage business who is in a place where they're mentally having a tough time or just their business isn't where they want it to be and they're trying to get to that next level? What lessons or thoughts would you share with that person or instruction?
Mm. Um, in addition to working on your personal mindset, so like attracts like, it really does.
Mm,
So if you are, to quote from another coach that you and I have experience with, if you are vibing high, if you're
yeah,
putting out really good, positive, energy,
yeah,
you will attract like people. And to me, that's probably the most basic thing that we can do, is to try to attract the target folks that we want to work with.
mm,
And I would say I feel really successful about that. I don't have any unpleasant people that refer me business.
mm.
They are nice,
Did you
kind
always
people.
have that, or
No,
did you have to work
yeah,
to get to?
I
How did you? What was the process that you used to, or the strategy to get from a place of having tough or negative people in your world, business wise, to now where you're saying like, hey, I actually everyone I work with is like minded and great. How did you get from A to B on that?
well, I mean, not, and I hope people are not taking this the wrong way, but again, not being flip. I really think that God is part of that equation, right? So I make
Mm,
that choice.
okay.
I want to be a really good human being. I want to be choosing the joy and the gratitude, and I would like to meet other people who are like that. Just put it out there in your gratitude and your meditation and your prayer, and then on a on a more cynical and basic level, you can find people. You can look at Facebook. You can see, are these people posting positive, kind things? This is a person I'd like to work with.
Yeah.
And then you can just reach out to them and say, "I really love what you put out there, and I've been having a lot of fun following you, and I'd like to work with you. Is there a time where we could meet, and get to know each other, and see if our like personalities and, experience levels would be a good alliance where we can work together. So you can choose who you work with, and you can find them pretty easily nowadays with social media. And you can also
Mm.
identify the people that are super negative and say, just not going to
Pass.
put
Maybe
them on my
don't call
list.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to pass on that because that's doesn't feel like a good fit.
Yeah. I like that. So something that I took out of what you said there is that first you became the type of person
Yes,
that you wanted to be, choosing joy, gratitude practice, hardworking, and then strategically and systematically sought out like-minded people that wanted to go in your same direction. And over the course of time, now everyone kind of in your circle
yeah,
is that
it
way.
just becomes that way. And you can ask. So, for example, if we're talking to newer loan officers, if you've had a really great couple of experiences with someone who's been a good referral source, if they are a real estate agent or a financial planner or CPA, or wherever you met them, you could just say to them honestly, "Love working with you. I feel like we are like minded."
Yeah.
And we do well together. Is there anyone else that that's like you that you would be comfortable
Mm.
introducing me to? Because I'd like to work with more nice people like you.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great script. And it's from the heart.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
yeah, those are the best ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel, especially today, which makes me happy, that being authentic is
Mm.
much better than a smooth script,
Just
like
be
just
yourself.
be
Yeah,
real,
yeah.
be true to yourself, share that authenticity with the people that you're talking to. Some people aren't going to like it. And those are the people that you would have not wanted anyways if you
And that's
got in
okay.
relationship with them. So I feel like you can't lose and the other person can't lose with
Just
that.
be yourself. And I don't know if this rings true for other women specifically, but when I was growing up, and first got into business, I thought that I needed to be a certain way in the workplace, in a certain way at church, in a certain
Mm,
way at home, in a certain way with my friends, that it was just different, right? And that was ignorant thought, right? And there was a
mm.
song that a singer, gosh, it's really going to date me, Amy Grant. This is like from the '90s, and it was called
I remember Amy Grant.
Hats, and it was about all the different hats that women wear.
Hmm.
And I had this lovely, epiphany, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just need to be who I am the same way at work, as I am at home, and at church and with my friends and, wherever I might be. I don't have to be putting on some kind of different hat or some kind of different personality." So, yes, I mean, we all
Mm.
play different roles. You're a dad, you're a business owner, you're a husband, but you're still you.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
we don't have to pretend. But just be your authentic self, and hopefully it's a joyous, happy self.
And if it isn't currently, right,
You can work on that. Yeah.
um, people can always work on that. You're not obligated to your current reality permanently if you don't like it.
No, it's a choice how
Yeah.
we view things and how we respond. It's a choice. And we got that from another coach that we both know.
Yeah.
It's what a relief it is to know I can choose how I react to whatever.
Yep.
So, and I think that choosing a positive, happy way, to respond as often as possible, is the way to live.
Yeah. It beats the alternative, as
Mhm.
I say.
Mhm.
Because you could go the other way, but what's the benefit? That's what I try to think
Yeah.
of. Like,
What's the upside to that? Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when I don't see the upside, I try, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not all the time that way, but I try to be that way for that reason, because it's like,
Yeah.
there's no upside to just being grumpy and,
No.
like,
And every day is not perfect, and there will be situations, especially, I think especially in our line of work. I mean, because there's so many different personalities, so many people involved
yeah,
in a real estate transaction, and you can't control how they behave and what they think and, and how they say things. All you can do is control how you respond.
yeah, that's the truth.
So
So we've been hanging out for almost an hour talking about
wow, okay.
things. Um, and so thank you for hanging out with me for this episode. I
Thanks and for inviting me. It's been fun.
we one of the taglines that we have for the show is conversations that spark growth. And so this conversation has had, I think, many moments of potential growth for someone watching, which is amazing. Um, one of the last things I want to, or maybe the last thing, is when you think about your legacy that you want to leave to the industry, to your family, uh, what are some things that come to mind
Mm.
that you want to, that you hope people say about you when you're out of the business, or, now that you have adult children, that they might say to their
Yeah.
friends, or like when you think about legacy, what comes to mind?
Good question. Um, in business and in life, I want people to know that I care.
Mm, wow.
Yeah.
I feel
It
that.
made me tear up. So
I feel that. I feel that. I feel that you care.
yeah.
And I think your clients and your partners do.
Yeah. That is just, they're just not a number.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't, um, I hope the listeners
It's a deep
understand.
question. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to. I hope people understand that's not a common sentiment among people in any business, particularly the mortgage space, which is the one I know the best.
Yes.
And so
Well,
I pray that your partners and your clients understand how lucky they are to have you as their
oh, well, thank you. That's one of the
advisor.
reasons I'm at Fairway
Yeah.
and with your branch, because it's the same. It truly is from the top down.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. So I had a coach many years ago when I first got started. He said, "Look, people will look at you. They'll look in your eyes, your clients, your referral partners, and they will see if the S in your eyes has a vertical line through it. If you really are a
Yeah.
sympathetic, sincere person, or if
If you're
you're
just for
just
the
about
money.
a paycheck, just
Yeah.
about a commission."
Yeah. And the caring that you mentioned, I mean, it's ironic. I have a similar story about disclosures on the weekend as one of my first
Yeah.
experiences when I came here. And I also had Jake like just
Yeah.
jump in. And I can't think of any other reason, because he actually cares, because he was in that seat
Yes.
and he understands what it feels like to need help and have a client that you care about, that you want to help, and you have to rely on teammates to deliver that help.
To make it happen.
And if they don't show up for you, then you're just kind of out there in the wind.
You're
And when you care, that hits you.
It really,
That,
really does, and you feel it. It's a sincere level of caring. It's just hard to convey. But
yeah,
had clients ask me, if had borrowers ask me, and real estate agents, why would they offer this program? Why are they are they doing that?
yeah,
And I say, because we are led by someone who used to be where I am, on the front line, with their reputation on the line every day, trying to deliver and help families. And he cares. He
yeah,
wants the very best. He wants us as his employees to know that he has our back, and that
yeah,
everyone that works here has our back. And we want to be able to comfortably and confidently convey that to the families
Yeah.
that are trying to buy the house or refinance because they desperately need to get some equity out to do whatever it is, whether it's to help mom in assisted living or buy their dream vacation home, whatever the circumstance is, that we're there and he wants us to know.
Yeah.
And I do, I feel it every day, which is,
And one of the things you mentioned there that might not pop out to a listener is that when you were asking, why do you have this program? Not all loan programs pay the same. So like there's a lot of times a financial disincentive to offer programs where it could help people who need it the most. And so I've always appreciated that here, that there's always an effort consistently over different market cycles and seasons to serve everyone and not just the most convenient or profitable.
mhm,
And I think that speaks volumes about what you were saying about caring about people and the industry
yes,
and our teammates, putting them in positions to win, the potential home buyer in a position to win, to be able to get a program that works where they can get into the home.
yes.
Um, and for us to be able to win with our realtors who are trusting us with their clients. It's a beautiful thing.
I really do think it boils down to that word care. So.
Yeah.
And I've had some beautiful examples in my life personally,
Hmm.
and I want to live up to those examples. That's my legacy that I'd like to leave.
That's beautiful. I don't think I can top that. So I feel like that's a great place to put a bookmark in this episode. And I would love to have you back. I feel like a few times in here we were like, that could be a whole other episode. So maybe we'll
More
have
to
you back.
unpack one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Well, thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
And thanks to all our listeners and viewers for joining us for another episode of the Made to Be Great podcast. And we'll see you again soon.